We skipped a few years there. So I want to do a general update on our status and some of the problems we're working to resolve. This is a map, a screenshot from today. It's 1,344 installs. So we're still growing. But you can tell from the map, though, we're very concentrated in this one area of Brooklyn and downtown. Whoa, I'm almost speaking out. And downtown Manhattan. The installs are at around 5 per week now, and we're not really increasing our growth anymore. We're exponential for a while, but we've flattened out to 5 a week.
There's a little yellow button on the side of your mic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did that work?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the biggest problems we're having at the moment is rain. This never used to happen with our original installs. We were using light beams, and that's all 5 gigahertz, and they're very good in the rain. But we started using these 60 gigahertz antennas because they're very fast and they're cheap, and but they don't like the rain. So now we're having a lot of problems when it rains. The solution to this is to not do such long links, so we're going to try and have more hops and shorter links, and only use the very best devices that are longer range, are less likely to fail. The other thing is, of course, more fiber leases. That's an expensive option, but we're talking about that as well. And you can join us on Slack if you want to get involved with that. There's a lot of talk. This is Daniel's design for how to improve the links in Brooklyn. In Manhattan, we've got a really high density, so we don't have so much failures, and like my link never goes down, and yeah, Brooklyn's having a lot of problems at the moment. One thing that's changing is we're getting a huge number of inquiries about full buildings, and that's taking up all of my time. Like I spend a huge amount of hours on this per week, doing site surveys, talking to construction people, talking to architects. It's kind of overwhelming. Eventually, we'll have to take on a contract, get a contractor or a full-time position to do this. But for the mesh, it's great. If we can start doing these buildings, and we help a lot more people, and it's a lot faster to do a whole building than to do a single apartment. So you can see the inquiries we're getting in the Bronx, or way out in East New York, and in Staten Island. So that could really increase the coverage of the mesh. With the big buildings, you deal with management companies, and it's 3 that we've been dealing with mostly. It's Olive Branch Catholic Charities, which is this area, and we got 4 buildings from them, and it's also Fifth Avenue Committee in Brooklyn. We've got 2 buildings from them so far. We'll probably get some more. That's HPD, and there's NYCHA, which I don't know if these will happen. It's so slow with NYCHA, and they're kind of on hold, those 2. One of the buildings, it's cutting off the top there. Well, one of the buildings which I thought we would get, we didn't get. We lost the bid on it. And when we do a bid, we do it at cost, so nobody can really underbid us. But what happened was, I know this from talking to them, the person that did win the bid got FCC money, and so they basically doing it for free and getting money from the FCC to do it. So we lost that bid, and I want to talk more about this, the FCC Affordable Connectivity Program. We're very unusual for a nonprofit in that we're self-funded. Like most nonprofits survive on grant money, and it's many years since we've had any grant money. We have subscriptions from members, and that's how we're self-funded. And we've got a very healthy bank balance. Jason will talk about this later. And yeah, but we haven't had grant money in many years. So yeah, on the one hand, it's great because we can keep going no matter what, and we're not under any obligations, grant obligations, which sometimes are very strict. But we're losing out on millions of dollars by not participating in this grant money.
Is the lack of grant money an effort issue, a qualification issue? Do we know why?
Could you use the mic to ask the questions?
Yeah.
There's two more. There's another little one.
I'm going to have questions at the end of the presentation. So should I escape and redo the thing? Because it's cutting off the slides, George. That's better. So there's a FCC Affordable Connectivity Program, and I've spoken to other community networks that have got this, and it's not hard to get, but you have to register as an ISP, which we're basically not an ISP. Like if you look on our website, it never says ISP anywhere, and it's a thing we talk about a lot. Is that we just don't have the ISP business model, and we don't think of ourselves as an ISP. But I think we can get into this program by working with a separate affiliate company that can basically collect the money for the installs and do the billing for the installs, and then get the ACP money. And we're talking about that with the board at the moment. But I think we'll come up with something we can all agree on, and it will make it much, much easier for us to get the bids on these buildings. One weird problem we had, there was a purchasing error, and we're way overstocked on equipment at the moment. We've got to figure out how to get rid of 150 light beams and 30 AC Mesh Pros, the access points we stick on the light poles. They're $200 each, so we've got like $6,000 worth of these access points. And we've got a whole bunch of Rabbity access points as well. We're putting in place things to stop this ever happening again. And but if you need some gear, let us know. We've got way too much. It's the racks of gear there, you can see. Another problem is working with the city. We've got a really long history of trying to work with the city, and it's like about half of our application time and conversations on Slack have been about how to work with the city, and there's been so little results from that. We've got 2 rooftops, and that's it. It's like a huge amount of effort and very little to gain from it. Governor's Island was one project we spent a lot of time on, and the city just, they're so cheap. Like they wanted us to put Wi-Fi across the whole island for $10,000. Like, this was like a $500,000 project, and the budget was $10,000. So, sorry? Okay, I'll try and speak up. So, and we still put in a bid and we didn't get it. But yeah, that was one of the early ones. And NYCH's just been so slow to work with. We got Vernon, that took us 2 years, and everyone that worked on that went crazy, and a lot of people just left the mesh and, that were working on it. it would really send us all insane. It wasn't a pleasant experience. But Vernon's proved to be a great asset. But yeah, way too much time was spent on it. And we did an RFP for the city, and again, spending a lot of effort on it. And then the new mayor came in and just scrapped the RFP. So we were going to get about $500,000 worth of funding for that, and we won it, and we were approved and everything. And then the mayor just cancelled it all. And what he did instead is this Big Apple Connect. It just seems like a scam. He's paying cable companies $30 a month to provide free cable TV to NYCHA residents. This isn't internet. He's paying them to provide cable TV, like this obsolete technology. So the cable companies are getting $60 per apartment from the government to provide cable and internet. It's just a scam. And I think we're locked out of providing internet to NYCHA residents now. So the other side of the city is HPD, the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, which is Grand Street's a part of that. And it's a much, much easier organization to work with. There's separate management companies that look after these buildings, so you're dealing directly with the management companies. You don't have to go through a bureaucracy, and you can get things happening much quicker. So yeah, we're having much more progress with HPD buildings. So the building thing's really taking off now. So we've got about 5 underway. And I think generally we're moving from doing these single apartment things to doing more buildings, but doing more full buildings. Even like in Alphabet City, we just started doing a full building install in like a 30 apartment building there. Whereas we used to just do one apartment, and then a year later we might do a second apartment or something. But now we're getting the full building requests. I put a page on the website where you can enter to do, which gives you an email address and instructions on how to apply for a full building install. So this is starting this week, Sunset Park Library. We're just starting with a roof there, and it's going to be the major hub for the area because it's on a bit of a hill there. It's the tallest building for like a mile or two in any direction. So that's going to be the major hub. It's got much better line of sight than the Supernode, so we're going to do a very fast connection to the library and then use that as the main hub there. And we're doing a building just a block away on 50th Street. Yeah, that's the library, and this is the building on 50th Street. We're doing all of the apartments in there. It's a renovation. And one thing we're doing with these new buildings is trying to get the contractors to do all the conduits as well. So in this, all we're doing is dropping a cable down, plugging it in, and at both ends, and we're done. So it's going to be a pretty quick install. I think Sean's going to do most of it, and I think it's around 30 apartments there. I forget the exact number. This is a huge one, which we in the Bronx, and I've got to start getting the equipment together to do this, and we've got to start talking to the electrical contractors there as well. But this is 213 apartments in the Bronx. So this is a definite one. It's going to be our first building in the Bronx. So it's quite exciting. Thank you. That's it for me. And yeah, put all these clapping people there to encourage you to clap. So any questions? You had a question.
Yeah, I think I'm.
Talking.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier about our not having any grant funding in the past couple of years. What is our major restriction to that? Is it one of qualification where we don't meet the requirements because we're not an ISP? Is it we're just not trying? Is it?
Yeah, we're not trying. We've put a lot of effort before. It takes a real lot of effort to apply for grants, and yeah, people got burned out on it. We don't really have anyone working on it at the moment.
Got it.
And I know there's a lot of infrastructure has become a buzzword at the moment, so I know there's a lot of money around that we could be getting if we worded what we're doing correctly, and you know, yeah, we should be applying.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I guess to follow up on that question, I know that grant writing is a pretty intensive process. I've been with organizations that had like a full-time, at least one full-time grant writer, and this is like for a small farm. I know that we there's a possibility of some AmeriCorps volunteers. Is that something that they could do? Is that like something that one of those volunteers could be put on?
We don't have any. We had one person that accepted and then she cancelled.
Oh.
We don't have any people. Yeah, no, yeah. Non-profits generally have a full-time person just writing grants. And like I was saying, most non-profits are geared towards getting grants, like that's their main objective. And it kind of twists their mission a lot. Mm-hmm. And at least we're very pure in what we do. We're just connecting people, and we're not spending time applying for grants. But if we did get infrastructure grants, we could get a lot more fiber leases and expand that way.
Microphone back. Is the goal of getting grants just to fund those projects, or is it a general cash flow issue to pull money into funding projects that we already are doing?
Well, the grants are usually tied to a specific thing, like the ACP Affordable Connectivity Program. You just get $30 for every person you connect, $30 a month. There's other grants where you know, they're tied to specific projects. And there are some grants that have no strings. I forget, it's Bezos' ex-wife. She has large grants with no strings attached. And but I think it's a discussion we need to have before we apply for big grants, is what we do with it.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Jason, you want
to? Yeah, this is the numbers are a little small. But yeah, this is just kind of looking at the general numbers of the organization. We reorganized. We have an attorney on our board now named Ian. What's Ian's last name? Matthews, thank you. Hey, Daniel. And he suggested that we split our main organization into two parts for liability reasons. So we have two organizations, two entities now. One is our corporation, the other is the LLC. And so we're trying to focus all our transactions on the LLC. This is just a few columns. One shows the corporation on the left, LLC in the middle. Really, this third column here is our total net revenue. Our average monthly net is just over $5,000, and our bank account on the far right is steadily growing. right now, if you can't read that, which I can barely read, is $411,000 in the bank. And so while it seems like a lot of money, it can go very quickly, especially should we hire 1 or 2 full-time people, one maybe doing grant writing or whatever happens next. But the board is going to be meeting and guiding and discussing moving forward how we scale, really. So, yeah, this available. If anyone is interested in seeing it close up, it's available for anyone to see, and that's it. Any questions about money stuff?
What is our age of funds in the sense that if all of our income stopped tonight, how long would we last on the funds that we currently have banked? And how quickly are we turning over just in general? Sorry, I'm an economist.
Our main income is monthly subscriptions. It just can't end. It's not possible.
I mean, if it were to end, our general monthly expenses are somewhere in the range of 16 to 20,000.
Okay.
Generally speaking. And so, what is that? 400 divided by 20.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit more than I was expecting.
So yeah. So for the moment, but like I said, we're mostly based on volunteers, and so when it comes to hiring contractors, paying for more fiber leases, all of those are pretty high, become high overhead or capital expenses.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one right here, actually.
Well, one thing I wanted to add is that the board doesn't really decide on things. That the discussion happens on Slack or in groups. So, whether we do the affordable connectivity, those discussions will happen on Slack, and then once there's a sort of consensus, then that's put to the board, and the board will either say yes or no. So Zach, will I get your presentation up?
About this, I had a question or comment about this with respect to how long we can last. And I think there's how long we can last, but there's also having enough cash to be able to do a giant project, right? And so something like the Belmont Cove, we could easily spend a couple $100,000 doing that, and they'll pay us back, but we have to have enough cash to be able to do it. And there, of course, we can ask for 50% down and so on, but we're even talking about, as Brian mentioned, doing fiber leases to different places to really improve the quality of the mesh, and that will increase our monthly expenses. Because if we're positive $5,000 a month, we should strive towards spending that on making the mesh better, right? So we've been talking about several fiber leases and so forth. So it looks like a lot, but it's not as much as you might think, because we could easily spend, like it says right there, spent $17,000 on upgrades. We could do that 2 or 3 more times on accident, right? Or like on purpose, or all the light beams we just bought, etc. Right? So, yeah.
So will I get your presentation up, Zach?
Yeah, sure. Do you have the link already, or should I just put it on my laptop? Okay. All right, so, sorry? Better quality. Okay. All right, so I'm Zach. As I mentioned, I'm with the Mesh for a while, and there's a number of projects that I do for the Mesh. So this kind of presentation I don't like doing. I don't like talking about myself or what I do, and we were looking for something that to talk about, an extra presentation, and there's a number of projects that I kind of said I would do or committed to, and some of them have been going on for a while, so they deserve an update. So that's why I'm here to give this kind of update. So actually, that's what I just said. So it's a good thing that I wrote the presentation. It means that I at least do the same thing twice. So Anyway, a lot of these projects are things that are really kind of a one-person project, or they start out that way, and they create infrastructure that more than one person can work on. At least that's the hope. And so we'll go through some of them right now and the status update of them, with the idea that, you know, I'm working on them, but they're not my projects, they're the Mesh's projects, right? The first one, we talked about this a couple times, that we're doing a server and router refresh. This is that item that was $17,000, I think, right, a couple months ago. This is to replace all of our Supernode routers, some of which are 10, 15 years old. There's a presentation in November you can look at about this. And we're getting pieces slowly in on this. The last piece just came in. And then there's one more, the second to last piece that is, there's one more piece. There's a discussion in the architecture channel about if we should answer this question here about if we should spend another $4,000 to put us up to the next level beyond with this hardware before we even go out, right? So I think yes, but anyway, that's one thing. And like, here's an example. Here's a picture of that hardware right now. This is the test bed. This is 2 days ago, I think. In the middle, you can see we have 4 by 100 gigabit into one of our servers here. They go down to 2 giant test beds in the bottom. And then we have a quad by 40 gig feeding between the test side A and the test side B. So we can test quad 40 gig or 4 by 100 to see if either one is faster. And with the new cards that I suggest buying, we can hit line rate on both of those. So this is the new infrastructure, the new hardware that's sitting there that will, you know, this router is on top. We use these in production right now as well, the same exact model. They're donated. The servers below we bought. And so that's one project that's ongoing and I think pretty exciting for us. The next project are these community room computers over here. I'm not the only one that worked on this, but they're here. That took some time. There's an interesting thing that if you use these computers, they're okay, but they have a password called kiosk, and they have, like, you can save files to them, and it's not the best, right? It's not like a classroom laboratory computer. And so I'm working on, with a couple other people who actually aren't in the mesh, making a really kiosk version of Linux that just opens up and it just refreshes when you're done, and throws everything away, so it's super safe to be able to use. The picture here is actually that copy of Linux running, and the bar on the bottom is a little bit off right now. It's not quite what we want, but there were some comments about it doesn't look the way people want it to look, so working on making that better. And speaking about the previous two things, actually, both of those have to do with Linux and making Linux usable for us in a certain way. And so I'm looking a lot into NixOS and reproducible infrastructure. And I hate to say it because I'm not really a big fan of NixOS, but it's a copy of Linux that lets you make reproducible builds. And so the new Supernode 1 computer that I just put in on Sunday, it actually uses this already. So our Supernode 1 computer, the new router, which replaced, I think it's the next one. I accidentally removed that, so there's another one. We replaced the Supernode 1 router on last Saturday, Sunday. I'll just talk about that briefly because if you remember, if anyone was looking at a presentation from some time ago, there's one computer at Supernode 1 that's been up for about 2,400 days. It hasn't restarted. It hasn't lost a power supply. It's been running there for about almost 7 years. And it's really scary. So the fiber connection to that stopped working. And the question is it the computer or is it something else? And I happen to have one of the spare computers for the mesh around. And the spare computer was faster than the 15-year-old computer. So I replaced it last Sunday. Surprise, it's not us, it's someone else. So the fiber is still down because it actually wasn't the router that was up for 2,400 days. So it's still good. We can still use it. But anyway, it's using this new reproducible version of Linux. And so that router is something we should be able to rebuild over and over again. And I'd like to redo a lot of our infrastructure in that way. I'd like to make it so we can do a pull request, a JSON file that has our peering, our DNS, our NAT, configuration like this so that we can build things in a very easy way, and we can rebuild them, and people can participate on that. We're also refreshing the metrics. I'm working on this with Olivier. I'm a little bit behind in getting him some pieces, but working on combining a couple of the different parts so that we can do this. I think other people may also be doing their own efforts on this as well, but that's a thing that's important, I think, for the whole mesh. And working on fiber to different places. As Brian mentioned, one of our buildings is canceled, so I spent some time with the vendor on that. There's a second Bronx location that I'm not sure is canceled, and then I'm in discussion with the vendor about the other one, as well as 2 additional connections that should add some redundancy and some bandwidth to our network. So that's kind of, so basically upgrading our core network as well, in addition to the hardware. There's also some BGP repairs at Brooklyn that I'm working on, and that's it. So there's more things, but those are the things that are of interest. And like I said, I'm not really desiring to make a presentation about myself, but this should encourage you to maybe talk about projects that you're working on the mesh. I know there's a bunch of different people working on different buildings, different software components, and so I think this is a great time to fill talking about your different projects you're working on. So I'd encourage you to do the same. Thanks. That's it. Yep. Any questions or anything like that? Yeah. Any questions? Cool. Oh, okay, here we go.
I don't know if I need a mic for this, but I was wondering if there is a version of the Linux OS that you're working with that we can test. Like, is it something that you want people playing with and like chiming in on or anything like that, or?
Yeah, it will be released. It's just,
Okay.
It's not, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm actually thinking about booting it on one of these tonight as a test, just to see if it works on that hardware. But the idea is, after I make the GUI slightly better, then I would release it, and people could iterate saying, here's a better version of it, right? So, yeah, I think it just has to be feature complete first.
Cool.
It's very close to that. It's just, do I spend my time on VPP and routers, or replacing a Supernode 1 that's down, or that? So, yeah. But yes, you will definitely get a copy. Look in probably software firmware. That's where I'll probably post it.
Okay.
Yeah. Questions? Cool. Okay, thanks. Who's next, Brian?
That's it, I think.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Anyone else want to present? Okay.
So, yeah, we'll just break out for discussions. I've got some beer, and I might order some pizza as well.
Okay, break out for discussions. Thanks, everybody online.